Hey Cowboys Nation, let's go for another round of news from America's team. Watch until the end so you don't miss any news and sign up to stay tuned for everything that comes out about the Cowboys.
Cowboys could lose pass rusher to Commanders after Dan Quinn hire. The Dallas Cowboys will be seeing their former defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, twice a year with the Washington Commanders for the foreseeable future. With several Cowboys set to test free agency, it's possible they may see some of their ex-teammates, Dante Fowler Jr., in particular, standing on the Commanders' sideline with Quinn. From college to the pros, Dante Fowler has a long history with Quinn and could follow him to Washington like he did in Dallas, blogging The Boys' Brian Martin wrote on February 6. Like Durance Armstrong, he's been a key rotational piece for the Cowboys the last two seasons, registering 4.0 and 6.0 QB sacks in that two-year span. He'd add much-needed depth for the Commanders and would come relatively cheap considering the contracts he signed recently. Fowler, 29, signed back-to-back one-year, $3 million deals in 2022 and 2023 after spending the first 6 years of his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Los Angeles Rams and Atlanta Falcons. Armstrong, 26, also is set to be a free agent after 6 years with the Cowboys. According to a January story by Nick Harris of DallasCowboys.com, Armstrong will look to pair his strong year on the field with a sizable contract this offseason. As a pass rusher that has shown consistency and reliability over the last 2 seasons, Armstrong could be in line for a payday. In Pro Football Focus's rankings of the top 150 free agents, Armstrong was 85th and Fowler did not make the list. Dante Fowler Jr.'s time in Dallas. Arriving in the NFL as the 3rd overall pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, Fowler has been around the block. It's safe to say that he's never hit star billing in the NFL. But he has been a useful pass rushing player. Entering the 2020 season, Fowler was looking for a team. Quinn, who coached Fowler at the University of Florida, was then the head coach of the Falcons and signed him up. And when Quinn was fired ahead of the 2021 offseason and subsequently hired by Dallas, Fowler followed him again in 2022. Over 2 years in Dallas, Fowler totaled 10 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. He never made a start, but he also never missed a game in 2022 or 2023. For a rotational player, that's an ideal situation. Proposed Cowboys trade brings Chargers to Joey Bosa to Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys need reinforcements in 2024, and one potential name they could pursue is Los Angeles Chargers defensive end Joey Bosa. Bosa has had a quiet past 2 years due to injury, but that may be creating a situation in which he could actually be traded. Dallas has a talented pass rusher group spearheaded by Micah Parsons, but Bleacher Report's Alex Ballantini thinks they need to elevate the group further with Bosa. Looking across the league at who could legitimately be available, Joey Bosa would make a lot of sense as a target. The Chargers would clear $14.4 million in cap space and probably pick up a first-rounder to replace him in the process of trading him. Acquiring him is the kind of risk the Cowboys may have to take to join the elite echelon of the NFC, Ballantini wrote on February 7. The majority of the risk rests upon Bosa's health. He's had more than his fair share of injury issues in the NFL. But when he has hit the field, he is still an elite sack producer. Trading a first-round pick would be a significant investment, and it's not like the Cowboys don't have cap space concerns. But Bosa would give them 2, potentially, elite pass rushers, and that's worth considering. Joey Bosa's injury and contract situation: while the 28-year-old has only played 14 games over the past 2 years, he's had 9 sacks in that span. There's no question that Bosa still can go. However, Los Angeles has to consider their situation due to how much money they've spent for an oft-injured player. Dallas knows how they feel. The injury issues with Wr. Michael Gallup in recent years comes to mind. So, would they be willing to pay Bosa $47.36 million over the next 2 years on top of trading a first-round pick for him? It seems pricey. Dallas could restructure his deal after the trade, spreading out that cost over multiple void years. The Cowboys could get his cap hit down to $10 minus $12 million a season, which is far more reasonable. They could also just outright extend him to ensure his services long-term. But hitching your wagon to an injury-prone player that will turn 29 during the 2024 season may be a step too far. Cowboys' top trade proposal lands $85 million five-time Pro Bowl LB. Despite having the number 5 rated defense in the NFL last season, the Cowboys do need help at some key spots on that side of the ball. The defensive line has been earmarked as the most obvious place for an upgrade, or, at least, for added depth, but the team will have questions, too, at linebacker, where the uncertain future of Leighton Vander Esch leaves the Cowboys wanting. And perhaps a Cowboys trade could fill the gap. That's the outlook from Bleacher Report, which looked at 3 potential deals the Cowboys could make this offseason. A potential deal with the Jets might have been the least splashy of the 3, but perhaps would be the one with the highest impact. That's because it would bring back Jets linebacker C.J. Mosley, a polished veteran with 5 Pro Bowl appearances on his resume. Mosley would not be a long-term option, but as he is in the final year of a 5-year, $85 million contract, he could be a suitable bridge to a younger player the Cowboys could tap in the draft or elsewhere. T.J. Bass and draft capital fuel Cowboys' trade proposal as Bleacher Report sees it. The proposed deal would go like this. New York Jets receive IOL T.J. Bass, 2024 third-round pick, number 87 overall. Dallas Cowboys receive LBCJ Mosley, 2024 sixth-round pick, number 186 overall. Of course, the Cowboys used Bass pretty extensively on an offensive line that was riddled with injuries this year, but the Jets' injury woes were just as bad. If the Cowboys sign their free agents and return their offensive front intact for next season, it would be easier to find a backup lineman to replace Bass than it would a linebacker of Mosley's quality. A third-rounder is a steep price, but the Cowboys want to get to the Super Bowl in 2025, and need short-term solutions. Justifying the deal, BR wrote. Mosley is getting long in the tooth, but he's still playing at a high level. He carried the 5th best grade with PFF this season in a season where he had 152 tackles while playing 99% of the defensive snaps for the Jets. The Jets could clear $11 million in cap space if they trade the 32-year-old defender, but the Cowboys would have the ability to rework his contract to lighten the financial burden and make a push for next year's Super Bowl. C.J. Mosley has less wear and tear. At 31 years old, he turns 32 in June. Mosley certainly is not young. But he is a relatively young in terms of the amount of wear and tear he has put on his body. That's because Mosley essentially missed all of 2 seasons in 2019 and 2020, and preserved his body by doing so. Mosley only played 2 games with a stubborn groin injury in 2019. He followed that up by sitting out for all of 2020 during the NFL's COVID-19 season. The league gave players the option of sitting out that season, and Mosley was one of the few who took it. Mosley was a little cryptic as to why he decided to sit out, but he explained that it was for family reasons. Because of COVID, my family is my support system with my son, so I didn't want to risk that, Mosley said, per Al.com. It's a full team sport, but sometimes people got to get better on their own. They got to look out for, we're in a different situation, but I've got to look out for my family, too, so sometimes you got to make that small sacrifice that some people might not understand right now. But when you come out on top, everybody's going to be on your side cheering for you.